to your sport lesson for the start of our remote learning this term. What you will notice is that the sport lessons and the physical education classes for years 7 to 9 are vastly different this time around. When we did our physical education and sport during last remote learning, there were some similar lessons, some repeated lessons, and we want to make sure that we're tackling the task that we didn't manage to do so well in the previous remote learning, and based on the feedback from parents and students, we've tried to make sure that these tasks are accessible, fun, enjoyable, as well as getting those benefits of keeping you moving, but also teaching you the skill components, which is so hard to do remotely. What we've compiled for you today is hopefully a task that helps do that. Within your class, there's a peer lesson plan, and that peer lesson plan gives a learning intention and success criteria, as well as the list of items that need to be completed for today. When you have finished it, don't forget to do about the reflection task that's created for you. So the work is under these resources tab. It is a skill learning booklet, which you will download the PDF file, which is editable, and I'll show you in a moment. And you will also have a learning task called Skill Learning Booklet, where you can upload your work to. Now, if you are in year 7 or 8, it will look very similar to if you are in year 9 or 10, because these tasks start the same, but as we go through the weeks, it will change a little bit. I'm just going to focus on the year 7 to 8 one today, and it tells you a little bit of an introduction here about what you're doing and what the real world application is. Your teacher will indicate to you how they want this to be submitted, and whether they want you to email or upload each lesson, or maybe after 2 weeks, but it's important that we mark the role each lesson by joining either the Zoom or signifying to your teacher in their way that you are present for the lesson. So, today's lesson actually goes across 2 of the tasks that are listed in this PDF booklet. Firstly, it's about movement skills. Now, there's a YouTube to watch, which you might enjoy as you go through this, but essentially, what we're doing here is we're trying to find out a little bit more about what movement skills are, because in each of the sports that you're enrolled in through Compass this term, and hopefully when we return to face-to-face learning you get to participate in them, movement skills are vital to perform the skills that are related to your particular sport. When we talk about movement skills, we're talking about those generalized skills and movements that can happen anywhere in any sport. And the task that I want you to start off with, which shouldn't take you too long, is to fill in for each of the letters of the alphabet what a task might be that is a skill that's around movement that is related to multiple sports. Now, you can see in these images here that each of these athletes or general people are balancing. Some are balancing on their legs on a very small surface, some balancing on their hands, and some balancing sideways using ultimate body strength. So one of the movement skills I'm going to put in here is balance. Now, something that happens in nearly all sports might be something like walking. This is just a movement skill that's generalized to all. Now, if you can't get the skill to start with that letter that corresponds, but it includes that letter, go for it. But try and fill all of these in. Once you finish that, it shouldn't take you the full 75 minutes. We'd like you to move on to the fundamental movement skills. Again, some learning intention, success criteria here, but essentially we're now talking about the fundamental movement skills that are seen in sports, both team sports and individual sports, and they are examples like rolling, balancing, sliding, jogging, running, leaping, jumping, etc., kicking, throwing. You can see some examples here of different sports that show throwing. You could throw a basketball, you can kick a soccer ball or a football, you can throw a tennis ball or a baseball or a softball. So what we would like you to do is work through this activity, which is now practical based, where you pick a few of these, but you're also going to assess yourself on how well you complete them. Now, if you've got space to do this, great. Otherwise, if you just want to stay with the ball bouncing or the vertical jump inside, go for it. Read what it would like you to do and try and set that up properly. So, select one, select another one, go to this document and resource here to find out about how to complete that skill properly. And then over here, you're going to start to fill in this table. This table here is talking about the different components that are made up in the skill in which you have chosen over here. So I'd like full sentences if we can when we fill in these components in this document. And don't forget that at any stage you can go back and retry the skill, look at yourself in a mirror, film yourself while you're doing it to look back on it, and go to YouTube to find somebody else who's showing you a jump or a leap or a bounce and how they complete that skill so that you are able to break down each of those components. I think the final thing that we'll probably get to today is this task here, which is identifying some sports that require a mastery, that is perfecting that basic fundamental movement, and explaining over here why you think that having that absolute mastery of that fundamental movement skill is important in that sport. I think that will make up the entire time for this lesson. You can feel free to move on a little bit if you want, but don't try and get this all completed in one lesson for us. We're going to continue with this task. Don't forget the role needs to be marked, so you need to make contact with your teacher either via Zoom if they request it or via email or Google Docs. And the other thing that's really important is to make sure that you show your teacher your completed work at the end of this lesson. Have fun.